Have you ever watched your dog do something so strange that you couldn't help but stop and wonder, why are they doing that? Maybe they walk across the room, pick up their favorite toy, and gently place it at your feet, even though they don't seem interested in playing. Maybe they always sit directly on your feet while you're cooking dinner, or quietly follow you from room to room without asking for anything at all. Perhaps you've seen them scratch and dig at the bed before lying down, stare at an empty corner of the room, or suddenly climb onto your lap as if they couldn't bear to be even a few inches away from you. To us, these moments often seem random. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're confusing, and sometimes they leave us wondering if dogs simply have strange habits we'll never understand. But what if we've been looking at these behaviors the wrong way all along? What if your dog isn't acting randomly at all? What if every one of those little habits is actually part of a silent conversation they've been trying to have with you? Modern canine science is revealing something remarkable. Dogs don't rely on words to express what they feel. Instead, they communicate through choices: the toy they bring you, the place they choose to sleep, the way they lean against your leg, the moment they decide to look into your eyes. Every behavior tells a story. Every action has a purpose. Every routine carries meaning. Researchers now believe that living alongside humans for thousands of years has turned dogs into extraordinary observers of our lives. They constantly watch us, learn our routines, recognize our emotions, and respond in ways that often go completely unnoticed. The problem is, most of us only see the behavior. We miss the message behind it. That toy at your feet may not be an invitation to play. It could be one of the greatest signs of trust your dog knows how to give. The moment they climb onto your lap may not be because they're spoiled. It may be because your presence is the safest place they know. Even digging at the blanket before falling asleep, a habit millions of owners laugh at every day, may be a behavior inherited from ancient ancestors that once depended on it to survive. The more scientists learn about dogs, the more we realize that many of the behaviors we've dismissed as cute, silly, or even annoying are actually windows into the way they experience the world. And once you understand what those behaviors really mean, you'll never look at your dog the same way again. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden psychology behind 8 everyday behaviors that almost every dog displays. We'll explore the fascinating science of instinct, trust, memory, attachment, and communication to discover what your dog has been trying to tell you all along. Because the truth is, your dog has been speaking to you every single day, not with words, but with actions, and they have been hoping, all this time, that someone would finally understand their language. Part 1. Why your dog brings you their favorite toy. Imagine this for a moment. You're sitting on the couch after a long day. Without making a sound, your dog walks into the room carrying their favorite toy. It's the one they always protect, the one they sleep beside, the one they've chewed on for months. They walk straight toward you, gently place it at your feet, then simply look up at you, not barking, not wagging wildly, just waiting. Most people smile and think the same thing. They want to play. And sometimes that's absolutely true. But canine behavior researchers believe there can be something much deeper happening in that quiet little moment. In the wild, survival was never about one animal living alone. Wolves and other social canines depended on cooperation. They hunted together, protected one another, and shared valuable resources within the pack. Trust wasn't shown through words, it was shown through actions. Sharing something valuable meant something important. It meant, I trust you. Although our dogs no longer hunt for survival, many of those ancient social instincts still remain. Only now, instead of sharing food, they often share something just as meaningful to them, their favorite possession. Think about it. Your dog's favorite toy carries their scent. It holds familiar memories. It has been with them during moments of excitement, comfort, and relaxation. To your dog, it isn't just a rubber ball or a stuffed animal. It's something personally important. So when they choose to bring it to you, they may be doing far more than inviting a game of fetch. They're inviting you into their world. Behaviorists often describe this as social bonding through resource sharing. Rather than protecting something they value, your dog willingly places it in front of the person they trust most. That's a remarkable decision, because trust always involves a little vulnerability. After all, your dog could keep that toy for themselves. Instead, they choose to share it with you. And here's something even more fascinating. Have you noticed that many dogs don't always expect you to throw the toy? Sometimes they simply leave it beside you. Other times they lie down next to it, almost as if bringing it to you was the entire purpose. The toy wasn't the message. You were. Your dog wasn't asking, "Will you play with me?" They may have been saying, "You're part of what makes this feel safe." It's a quiet gesture, an easy one to overlook. But relationships are often built through small moments that happen over and over again. Every time you respond with warmth, every time you smile, every time you accept that little gift, you're strengthening a bond your dog understands far better than words. Because, in your dog's world, sharing what matters most isn't simply an act of play, it's an act of trust. And once you recognize that, another behavior suddenly becomes just as fascinating. Why do so many dogs gently press their nose against your hand, even when they don't seem to want food, toys, or attention? Part 2. Why dogs push your hand with their nose. You're scrolling through your phone. The room is quiet. Your dog has been lying peacefully on the floor for several minutes. Then, without warning, you feel a gentle nudge against your hand. You barely react. A few seconds later, another soft push. You look down. Your dog is staring back at you. Calm, patient, almost as if they're waiting for something. Most people assume they already know what this means. They want attention. They want food. They want to go outside. Sometimes that's true, but surprisingly, canine psychologists believe that this simple little nudge often carries a much deeper purpose. Dogs are social animals. For thousands of years, their survival depended on staying connected with the members of their group. Losing contact with the pack could mean losing protection, cooperation, and ultimately, survival itself. Even though your dog now lives in a warm home instead of the wild, that ancient need for connection never disappeared. It simply found a new focus. You. When your dog gently presses their nose against your hand, they may not be asking for something at all. Instead, they may be checking something. Your connection. Think about how humans do something similar without even realizing it. A child reaches for a parent's hand while walking through a crowded place. A close friend taps your shoulder during a conversation. Someone you love briefly squeezes your hand without saying a word. The touch isn't about getting an object. It's about confirming a relationship. Dogs communicate in much the same way. Behavior researchers have found that dogs constantly seek social feedback from the people they trust. They pay close attention to our responses, learning whether we are emotionally available, relaxed, distracted, or engaged. That tiny nudge is often a question. Are you still with me? The answer doesn't always come through words. Sometimes it's simply the way you look at them, the smile that appears on your face, the gentle scratch behind their ears, or the quiet moment when you place your hand on their head. Within seconds, your dog relaxes, not because they received a reward, but because they received reassurance. What's even more remarkable is how carefully dogs learn our habits. They notice that when they gently touch your hand, you often stop what you're doing. You make eye contact. You speak more softly. You become emotionally present. Over time, your dog begins to understand something extraordinary. A gentle touch can reconnect two hearts. This isn't manipulation, it's communication. Researchers studying canine cognition have discovered that dogs are incredibly skilled at reading human attention. They can tell when we're looking at them, when we're ignoring them, and even when our focus is somewhere else. That's why many dogs choose the gentlest possible signal. Instead of barking, instead of jumping, instead of demanding, they simply reach out, with the quietest touch they can manage. And perhaps that's the most beautiful part. Your dog doesn't always need a game. They don't always need a treat. Sometimes, they simply need to know that the person they love is still emotionally close. The next time you feel that familiar nudge against your hand, pause for just a moment. Look into their eyes, because what feels like the smallest gesture to you may be one of the most meaningful conversations your dog knows how to have. And if a gentle touch is enough to help your dog feel connected, why do so many dogs choose something even more surprising? Sitting directly on top of your feet? Part 3. Why dogs sit on your feet. Have you ever stood in the kitchen, only to realize you couldn't take another step because your dog was sitting directly on your feet? Or maybe you're washing the dishes, talking with a friend, or simply waiting in line at the park. And somehow, your dog always finds a way to press against your legs or settle right on top of your shoes. For many owners, it's just another funny habit. Some laugh and say, My dog has absolutely no sense of personal space. Others assume their dog is being possessive or trying to claim them. But modern canine behavior research paints a very different picture. For your dog, staying physically close isn't about control. It's about security. One of the most important discoveries in animal behavior is something called the secure base effect, originally observed in young children. This idea describes how a trusted caregiver becomes a safe starting point for exploring the world. When the caregiver is nearby, confidence grows. When they disappear, uncertainty increases. Over the past decade, researchers have found that dogs often form remarkably similar attachment patterns with the people they love. To your dog, you are their secure base. When they're uncertain about a new environment, they look at you. When they hear an unfamiliar sound, they move closer to you. When strangers approach, many dogs naturally position themselves near their owner's feet before deciding what to do next. It isn't fear, it's reassurance. Think about how often your dog chooses this position, not necessarily when they're tired, but when life is happening around them. Children are running through the house. Visitors have just arrived. You're packing a suitcase. Someone rings the doorbell. These are moments filled with changing sounds, movements, and emotions. Instead of walking away, your dog quietly reduces the distance between the two of you. That tiny decision speaks volumes, because distance has meaning in the canine world. Animals that trust one another don't constantly need to stare into each other's eyes. They simply choose to remain close enough to feel connected. Your feet become something more than just a place to sit. They become an anchor. From there, your dog can watch the world while knowing exactly where their safest person is. Researchers studying canine attachment have also noticed another fascinating behavior. Dogs frequently check back with their owners while exploring unfamiliar places. Sometimes it's just a quick glance. Sometimes they briefly return for a moment of contact before wandering off again. This behavior isn't dependence, it's confidence. Your presence gives them the courage to investigate everything else. And perhaps that's why sitting on your feet feels so comforting to them. Without asking for your attention, without interrupting what you're doing, they're quietly reminding themselves that you're still there, that nothing has changed, that home hasn't moved. The next time your dog settles across your shoes, don't think of it as clingy behavior. Think of it as trust made visible. Out of every place in the room, out of every comfortable corner they could choose, they chose the one place where they know they'll never lose track of the person who makes them feel safe. But sometimes, being close still isn't close enough. Some dogs don't stop at your feet. They slowly climb onto your lap, rest their head against your chest, or gently place their entire body on top of yours. At first, it seems almost impossible to explain, until you discover what that behavior truly means. Part 4. Why dogs climb on top of you. You're sitting on the couch after a long day. Without warning, your dog walks over. They don't stop beside you. They don't curl up at your feet. Instead, they climb directly onto your lap. Maybe they rest their head against your chest. Maybe they lean their entire body into yours. If they're a large dog, they somehow manage to fit anyway, even though they're far too big to be considered a lap dog. Most owners laugh. They say, "My dog thinks they're still a puppy." Others assume their dog is simply spoiled, or trying to get all the attention. But according to animal behavior experts, there may be a much deeper reason behind this behavior. For dogs, physical closeness is one of the oldest forms of communication. Long before dogs shared our homes, young puppies survived by sleeping tightly pressed against their mother and littermates. That constant body contact wasn't just comfortable. It helped them stay warm. It reduced stress. And most importantly, it told their developing nervous system that they were safe. Although your dog has grown up, that biological wiring never completely disappears. As adults, many dogs still associate gentle physical contact with comfort, protection, and emotional security. Scientists studying the relationship between dogs and humans have found that positive physical interaction can trigger the release of oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, in both species. The same hormone that strengthens the bond between parents and their children also plays a role in the extraordinary connection between dogs and the people they trust. That's why moments of calm physical contact often feel so powerful. Your dog isn't simply touching your body. They're strengthening a relationship. Have you ever noticed when your dog is most likely to climb onto you? It's often after you've been away for several hours, during a thunderstorm, after a stressful day, or when they sense that something about your mood has changed. Researchers have discovered that dogs are remarkably sensitive to human emotional states. They notice changes in our facial expressions, body posture, tone of voice, and even subtle shifts in our scent caused by stress hormones. Long before you say, "I'm having a bad day," your dog may already know. And unlike humans, dogs rarely try to comfort each other with words. They use presence, they move closer, they make contact. Sometimes that means placing a paw on your leg. Sometimes it's resting their head against your shoulder. And sometimes it's climbing completely onto the person they love most. For many dogs, closeness itself is the comfort. There is another fascinating reason this behavior feels so natural. Deep, gentle pressure has been shown to help calm the nervous system in many mammals. While scientists are still studying exactly how this affects dogs, behavior specialists believe that leaning or lying against someone they trust may help some dogs feel more relaxed during moments of uncertainty. In other words, your lap may be more than a comfortable place to rest. It may feel like the safest place in your dog's world. The next time your dog climbs onto you, don't immediately assume they're being needy. Look at the moment more carefully. They could have chosen the other end of the couch. They could have stretched out on their bed. Instead, they chose the smallest possible distance between your heart and theirs. In your dog's eyes, that distance matters, because trust isn't measured by how loudly they greet you, or how many tricks they know. Sometimes, trust is measured by who they choose to lean on when they need to feel completely safe. But there is one behavior that confuses owners even more. It doesn't involve toys. It doesn't involve cuddling. In fact, it often happens when your dog appears to be looking at absolutely nothing at all. So, why do dogs sometimes stare silently at an empty wall, as if they can see something we can't? Part 5. Why dogs stare at empty walls. It usually happens when the house is completely quiet. Your dog suddenly freezes, their ears lift, their eyes lock onto a blank wall, an empty hallway, or a corner of the room where nothing seems to be happening. They don't bark, they don't move, they simply stare. Seconds pass, sometimes even a full minute. You look around, nothing. No people, no movement, no sound that you can hear. It's one of those moments that has inspired countless myths. Some people joke that dogs can see ghosts. Others wonder if they can sense something supernatural. It's an intriguing idea, but science offers an explanation that's every bit as fascinating and much more believable. The world your dog experiences is dramatically different from the one you experience. Their nose contains hundreds of millions of scent receptors, allowing them to detect odors at levels far beyond human ability. Their hearing reaches frequencies that our ears simply cannot detect. Even tiny changes in vibration can capture their attention. Imagine sitting in complete silence. To you, the room feels perfectly still, but your dog may be hearing water moving through pipes inside the walls, the faint scratching of a mouse in the attic, the soft buzzing of electrical equipment, or the distant footsteps of someone approaching the front door long before you notice them. What looks like an empty wall to you may be filled with information for your dog. Their remarkable sense of smell tells a similar story. Air is constantly moving through your home, carrying invisible scent particles from one room to another. A family member who walked down the hallway a few minutes ago has left behind a trail your dog can still follow. A neighborhood cat that brushed against the outside wall earlier in the day may have left an odor that drifts through an open window. To your dog, the environment is alive with messages that never reach your senses. Researchers studying canine perception have found that dogs combine information from smell, hearing, and vision to create an incredibly detailed picture of the world around them. They don't rely on a single sense. They blend them together. That's why they sometimes notice something long before we do. Have you ever experienced your dog suddenly looking toward the front door, only for someone to arrive a few moments later? It can feel almost mysterious. But often, your dog has simply detected subtle clues that escaped your attention. A familiar engine in the distance, footsteps on the sidewalk, a scent carried by the wind. Their brain connected the pieces before yours had a chance. Perhaps the most remarkable lesson isn't that dogs have extraordinary senses. It's that they live in a world layered with information we never even realize exists. Every room has its own invisible story. Every breeze carries new messages. Every quiet moment is filled with sounds beyond human hearing. The next time you catch your dog staring into what seems like empty space, don't assume they're looking at nothing. They're probably noticing something you were never designed to perceive. And that realization changes the way you see your dog. They're not imagining a different world. They're experiencing a richer one. But there is one final behavior that may reveal even more about your dog's heart than their incredible senses ever could. Every night, just before they fall asleep, many dogs perform a strange little ritual that has survived for thousands of years. They circle, they scratch, they dig at their bed. As ordinary as it seems, that ancient routine may tell us more about your dog's deepest instincts than almost anything else they do. Part 6. Why dogs dig before sleeping. It's late. The lights are off. Your dog walks over to their bed, turns in a small circle, then begins scratching and digging at the blanket, back and forth, again and again. Sometimes they paw at the bed for only a few seconds. Other times, they seem completely determined to rearrange every inch of the blanket before finally lying down. You watch them and smile. Maybe you've even wondered, why do they do this every single night? After all, the bed is already soft. The room is warm. There's nothing to dig. So why does this ritual never seem to disappear? The answer reaches back thousands of years, long before dogs had cozy beds, heated homes, or families waiting to say goodnight. Their ancestors slept outside. Every night, choosing the wrong place to rest could be dangerous. Before lying down, wild canines instinctively cleared away sharp rocks, sticks, insects, or anything that might cause discomfort while they slept. They also flattened tall grass to create a safer, more comfortable resting place. It was a simple habit, but it increased their chances of surviving another night. Over countless generations, that behavior became deeply rooted in the canine brain. Today, your dog no longer needs to prepare the ground. Yet the instinct remains. Behaviorists call this a fixed action pattern, an inherited behavior that continues even when the original reason is no longer necessary. It's similar to how humans sometimes check their pockets for keys or their phone without consciously thinking about it. The environment has changed, but the habit remains. There's another fascinating reason dogs scratch before settling down. Their paws contain scent glands that release subtle chemical signals. Each time your dog scratches the surface of their bed, they leave behind tiny scent markers that humans can't detect. To us, it's just a blanket. To your dog, it's becoming familiar territory. A place that smells like safety. A place that smells like them. Scientists believe scent plays a powerful role in helping dogs feel secure. Unlike humans, who rely heavily on vision, dogs build much of their understanding of the world through smell. A familiar scent tells the brain something important. This place is known. This place is safe. This is where I belong. Have you ever noticed that your dog sometimes scratches your couch, your bed, or even the blanket you've been using? It may not be because they're trying to damage it. They're often blending their scent with yours. Without realizing it, they're creating a shared space filled with the smells of the two individuals they trust most, you and themselves. It's a quiet ritual of belonging. And perhaps that's why so many rescue dogs continue this behavior even after years in a loving home. The instinct doesn't disappear simply because life becomes easier. Instead, it transforms. What once prepared a place for survival now prepares a place for peace. The ritual stays the same, only its purpose evolves. When your dog finally curls up, lets out a slow sigh, and closes their eyes, their body is doing something remarkable. It's telling the nervous system, the search is over. The danger has passed. I can finally rest. Maybe that's the most beautiful lesson hidden inside this simple nightly routine. The behaviors we often dismiss as strange, repetitive, or unnecessary are often echoes of an ancient past, shaped by survival but transformed by love. Your dog no longer digs to protect themselves from the wilderness. They dig because instinct still whispers the same message it always has. Find a place where you feel safe. For thousands of years, dogs searched for that place beneath the stars. Today, for many of them, that safe place isn't a den. It isn't a patch of grass. It isn't even the bed they sleep on. It's the home you've built together. And perhaps that's the greatest truth behind every behavior we've explored today. Whether your dog brings you a toy, gently nudges your hand, sits on your feet, climbs into your lap, stares into the quiet, or scratches at their bed before falling asleep, they're all expressions of the same silent language, a language built on trust, on connection, on safety, and above all, on love. By now, you may have noticed something surprising. None of the behaviors we've explored today were random. Not the toy your dog proudly brings to your feet, Not the gentle nudge against your hand. Not the way they quietly sit on your shoes, climb into your lap, stare into an empty corner, or scratch at their bed before falling asleep. Each one is a small piece of a much larger story. A story your dog has been telling you every single day. The remarkable thing is that dogs don't need words to express what matters most. They don't say, "I trust you." They don't say, "I feel safe with you." They don't say, "I'm happy you're home." Instead, they show you, with every choice they make. Modern science continues to reveal just how extraordinary dogs truly are. They don't simply share our homes, they learn our routines, read our emotions, remember our kindness, and build deep emotional bonds that can last a lifetime. The more we understand canine behavior, the more one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Your dog has never been trying to impress you. They've been trying to connect with you. So the next time your dog does something that seems strange, don't ask yourself, "Why is my dog being weird?" Instead, ask, "What are they trying to tell me?" You may discover that what once looked like an ordinary habit is actually one of the purest expressions of trust you'll ever receive. Because in the end, the greatest gift you can give your dog isn't a bigger bed or a more expensive toy. It's your understanding. When you learn their language, you give them something they've been hoping for all along, the feeling of being truly understood. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which of these behaviors does your dog do most often? Tell us your dog's name and their funniest or most heartwarming habit in the comments below. Your story might help another dog owner understand their best friend a little better. And if you enjoy discovering the fascinating science behind dog psychology and the incredible bond we share with our canine companions, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more videos. Because every behavior has a reason, every habit has a story, and every dog has something they hope you'll one day understand.